I believe I'm screen sharing already, so yay.
Indeed.
All right. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning in Melissa's case. Thank you everybody for joining Revit Radio. I'm Brian. That's Melissa, wherever she is on your screen. Um, see a lot of new names on here, which is always a great thing to see. So for those of you who do not know, this is all about you asking questions. If you don't ask questions, you get to see my latest 3D print and hear me talk about my latest 3D print that I did for my Lego grill. That's it. That's all we're going to talk about if there's no questions. But I do know we got emailed a couple questions, and I see a couple questions coming up. So that's always a good thing. So I do like to start off a little bit something quick just to get people's eyes going, and thought-provoking things. So I actually did a presentation. I think it was like 4 or 5 years back now. I don't remember at one of the conferences, and I actually talked about how you can use global parameters as design alternatives. I didn't say as design options, but I did as design alternatives. And where this came from was I had a client who was basically going in there and saying, cool, well, one of our designs on the building is going to be where these horizontal reveals are. And as these horizontal reveals move, I want the curtain wall mullion to move. I want another reveal to go away. I need all this to go through. He's like, so should I use design options? And I'm like, oh my God, that would suck. So literally the entire perimeter of the building. That means you would be duplicating every single thing in that building on the perimeter of that building, all the shell of the building for the design option. So this is what we came up with instead. So you'll see that if I go into my, that's not managed, if I go into my global parameters and I click on the global parameters, they had two options, an option A and an option B. If I untick option A and I hit the apply button, you're going to, I should have zoomed out down here, you're going to actually see that I lose a reveal. This one goes down, the louver height changes, the text over here in this elevation changes. All of that information is going to change simply by me going through and toggling off or on option A. All right. The way this ended up happening for this client, it wasn't that quick of a toggle. When he hit that toggle, it did take it about 2 or 3, 4 minutes to process because, like I said, it was the exterior of an entire convention center on what we were looking for to do, but we did need to go through and set this up. So that's one of the things, and I think people don't ever look into global parameters for this, is it's like making your building parametric like you would if you were creating your own Revit content. So basically how this happened is we went through, and there's a lot of other things going on here too, I'll talk about in a second. But for what they did is we literally came through and just started putting some dimensions down. So I did a dimension between the mullion or the curtain grid, excuse me, and I placed a dimension down. I did a dimension to the center line of the reveal, put that dimension down. And when you go through and start putting dimensions down in a project environment, you have the associated the availability to label it just like in a project, or to come down here and say, cool, I want to create a parameter for it. Extremely similar to what you're doing in a family. So what we did was a little bit different on that. We went into the global parameters and we did set some of these up, but then we started doing formulas. Again, if you've done families before, you might do this as well. So it's like, hey, the upper mullion spacing needed to be 8 feet if it's option A. If it's not option A, then I needed that to be 7 feet. So we literally just came in here and started coming in and toggling in, and this is a very simplified version of the actual project. But we came through and saying, cool, if it's option A, be 8 feet, otherwise be 7 feet. Same thing from the mullion. So the way we removed, not the mullion, I should say actually reveal offset from wall, not mullion, but that's okay. I screwed that up. So the reveal here, we actually just said, okay, if it's going to be reveal, a reveal when you go and look at those and you select that reveal has the capability to offset it from the face. Right, so you can have a horizontal offset or offset from wall in this case. So basically, we're just moving that reveal out of the wall. So when we go and toggle this one on to be option A or option B, whatever the other one's going to be, once we toggle that, that reveal's technically still there. It's just floating off in space somewhere. If I can find it, yeah, you can kind of see it's floating off in space out there, or maybe it's inside the wall. That should have been a negative. I think I embedded it into the wall, but whatever. You can move that horizontal offset. So it's starting to go through and realizing that you can start doing a lot of different things when you get inside of here, including the fact that you'll see that this window louver, this window family, is 24 feet, 24 inches by the global parameter, right? So in my edit type for the height of that louver, we just came in here and said, cool, that's going to be the window height, right? So some of this stuff to happen in those global parameters was like, oh, for the window height, I needed to take the mullion upper minus the mullion lower because there's some different values over here, and it calculates the mullion height. So really starting to go through and get some of this information set up to be going, here's what we need to do, here's where we want to start going. Same thing here, if they change the designs, like, oh, we wanted that lower mullion to be at 3 feet, and we hit the apply button, then that's not only going to move that up, it's going to stretch the window, etc. I even then went into the case of, okay, when we're in a schedule, we're going to know what are we doing here. So even when I went to like the window schedule for the type comments, I said, is it going to be option A or option B? So in those global parameters, we came up with a text parameter that just says if it's option A, say option A, otherwise say option B. So again, if we untoggle that, the information is going to change here. That's going to go into the window. That's going to go into the nested label. It's just the nested symbol family that has those values in there as well. The reason why this project we did this is it's not like you can do with the design option where you can say, hey, have the south elevation, one's printing A and one's printing B. We can't do that because it is a toggle. So for this particular client, they had to go through and print all of the elevations with option A ticked, go in and do option B, grab the other elevation sheets and print those sheets as well. So it's not the same as design options where I can display both of them at the same time, but you do have the capability to start coming through here and doing other things like that, right? I took it then to the next level just in this little sample file. I do this in a lot of my projects. Like you can see that I have this slab here. And yes, in an architectural project, we've got our own floors. You can attach the walls to the bottom side of the floor. You can go through and set a lot of these things up. But what's nice about this is if I were to come in here and just change this to be something else, it is going to go through and adjust the height of that wall back there, right? This is not attached to the floor. That's not happening. What I've done is I've actually just toggled the top offset for this floor with a global parameter, right? So I did in Revit world, what you can do is have a global parameter that is a reporting parameter. So if you see I select this, it's saying, cool, I'm going to grab the floor thickness. So basically I did a dimension from a level to the underneath side of this floor. This would work if that was linked in via a structural model. So I could dimension from my own level to the underneath side of a structural model and create in Revit what is called a reporting parameter. So you're going to see I've got the reporting parameter down here called my floor thickness at level 2. And again, that's a dimension from the level to the underneath side of either the slab in my model or the slab in the structural model. And I have that inside of here. Then what I have is I have one down here called my wall top offset at level 2, or it's just a negative version of that value. So as the thickness of that floor changes, these walls are automatically going to move. And honest truth, I prefer this to attaching walls because if somebody deletes the floor, I still have that global parameter set inside of there. So it would still technically work and I could go adjust all of those. Downside to doing this is if you want to do it, you have to go through and select each wall and go ahead and just grab that wall and say, cool, I needed to associate it to that parameter. So you do have to associate it to it when you place it in there, but it is a nice scenario because if somebody, like I said, deleted that floor, technically I could still go in and change the value and have all of those walls update even though there's not a floor there. So just kind of getting people to understand what you can do with global parameters. I believe I associated a material in all of these to global parameters, or yeah, I did down here. So if you're like, cool, and this, I got typical office, and all my typical offices are plastic laminate one, you could go back and say, oh, no, 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 never mind. We changed it from plastic laminate one to plastic laminate two. And as long as you've associated those elements to that, cool, we're going to go with ivory matte, not white. We can go ahead and associate that, and now all of those cabinets updated. Again, these are instance-based properties, so you do have to grab all of them and associate it. So if you placed a new one, you'd have to do that as well. All right, so a lot of features you can do global parameters. I did want to then open up this one here as well. So this is actually a project I modeled for a client. It was an existing project. They had some PDFs on here. And one of the fun things that was done is I did a lot of global parameters like you just saw with like the wall top offsets, etc. So when I come in here and start looking at like this wall, how did I get this wall to be 6 inches above the ceiling? Well, I associated that to a top offset. right? So top offset here is called my wall level two above ceiling. So if you came in and said, man, all those walls going above that ceiling, I need to change that from 6 inches to 4 inches to 10 inches, whatever, I can be like, cool, I'm going to go 8 inches. Once I say that, hit apply, all of those walls are now updating. The ones over here, everything's going to happen inside of there. I've also associated the height offset from level to every single one of the ceilings. So if you come in here and you're like, oh my goodness, the main ceiling height is going to be 10 feet, 10 foot six, whatever it's going to be. Again, I can go into my global parameter and be like, man, at level two, I wanted that 10 foot six. I hit the apply button. I hate it when Revit does that to me. Do this.
It's
Get rid of the
helping.
get rid of the scroll. Say, okay, that ceiling moved, all of those walls went along for the ride. So it didn't take me that much longer to do this in the overall scheme of things, right? Most people are going to draw this wall. They're going to say, hey, what's the base offset? I could have associated that to a global parameter as well. Then most people are just going to say, hey, it's unconnected at 1 foot. But instead of me, I just said, hey, let's just do the top offset and let's associate that to the wall level to above ceiling, right? And if I go look at that value again in those global parameters, that's just a calculated value. Where my wall level to above ceiling is the ceiling main height plus the all wall above ceiling grid. So just trying to get people to start thinking about, man, you can really start setting global parameters up on a project to where you're like, oh man, I needed all the main ceilings to change from 11 foot to 10 foot, whatever. You can go set it up. And if you're like, that's great, Brian, but now I've decided this area, it doesn't need to be there. Cool. Just go remove the global parameter and set it up to be what you want it to be, or create a new global parameter for the other areas. All right, you could have a typical office ceiling height. You could have, open office ceiling height, whatever you're looking for. So just kind of something to get people to think about that. There are global parameters out there. You can use them. On this one, the wall offsets, I see actually a lot of my clients using that one for the top offset for the walls. Hey, what is that structural thing? A lot of my clients are starting to use that one. I don't think any of them got into this whole crazy ceiling thought process that my brain has had. So just always like to show it and get people thinking about, hey, so Will's asking, confirm there's no way for a global parameter to be created from a shared parameter. Remember, global parameters aren't there to adjust things. They're there to control things. So I'm not going to create a shared parameter that's a global parameter. I'm going to tell a global parameter to push a shared parameter's value. Right? So you are correct. You can't say, hey, I want to go create a global parameter. I want to create this from a shared parameter. You can't do that because a global parameter is pushing into other parameters. So you could still schedule it because you're telling that global parameter to push into a shared parameter, a project parameter, a family parameter, or whatever it might be. You're telling it to fill out data. So it's no different than like creating a schedule key and telling that schedule key to go fill out other data. So hopefully, William, that answers your question. So what questions we got there, Melissa?
Mm, let's see. Chris is asking if there is a way to preset the type mark in a family like you can most other parameters. If not, do you
No,
have thoughts on the best way to coordinate type marks in multiple unit files linked into a single building?
no, unfortunately you can't because the type mark does not exist within the family environment. So no matter what family it is, I don't care which it is or whatever, when you edit the family, type mark does not exist here. So I have quite a few clients who are like, well, I don't use type mark. Instead of using type mark, I'm going to go ahead and just use description or type comments, but you do not get type mark until you load it into the project. Um, I have a lot of clients also who create their own like type mark value. So it's like company name type mark,
Yeah, we
and
do.
they can go through and just have that set up inside of there. I'm actually surprised this one didn't. This isn't one of my client files, so I was expecting to see their FA type mark in here. So yeah, a lot of my clients will do that simply for the fact that they're like, no, I want to pre-populate that data, and unfortunately, you can't pre-populate it within the family environment.
Yeah, David is pointing out you can do it when it's loaded into your project template,
Yeah,
but
that is what I was going to say. So you can go into a project, go to edit type and say, cool, I want to set the type markup for this, whatever it's going to be. You just can't preset that up in the family for if somebody loads it. It is a downside to that. So I know if you're using something like, shoot, what is it, the content manager from Autodesk or a lot of these other tools that allow you to mine data from families, some of those people will put them into a project and they're actually loading it from a project, not necessarily the family itself, and they do it for that reason as well. But yeah, out of the box, no. And the second somebody purges those families out of there, then they reload them, you lose all those type marks.
yay! Yeah, sorry, Chris. Eh, yep. And Jason's saying it's more reason to have your own parameter, and we also go the custom parameter route as well.
I only have it on mine because I usually, have people who are like, no, I don't want custom parameters in my stuff. So for me, I do use the type mark values, etc. And I load more stuff into the template than I want to for a lot of those reasons. Like, well, I didn't really need to load these weird door types in here, but I want the type mark to be filled out. So I'm going to load all the weird door types that probably aren't going to get used.
Oh, there we go. Rick's got the Revit idea, so we can all go vote on it. I feel like we should jump over to one of Andrea's questions. So Andrea emailed asking about content catalog. Since you were talking content management, then I figured I could throw that out to
Yeah, there
everybody
you go.
listening to that has used it. So on content catalog, have you used it? Is it worth the setup? Will you be charged for storing that catalog? And can you make your catalog available to others? So question to you, and also
Well, and I'm gonna,
just
well, Rick volunteered to say I might even throw Rick under the bus on this one too, because I know Rick has done presentations for Content Catalog. So I have used it. It's one of the things that I keep wanting to get into a little bit more. And part of the reason why I want to get into it more is yes, you can share your content with others. That's one of the big things that Autodesk is trying to push inside of their that, yeah, you can get in there and share it. So like, and they've actually asked me on this. So how do I share my libraries that I currently have? Honest truth, my library is on a folder on ACC, and I just give somebody rights to that folder for download. So content catalog is there. I've been waiting for them to refinalize some of the stuff that we lost when it was Unify. So once some of those things get up to speed a little bit better, I'll start looking into it. And again, it's the time. I am also very OCD in the way I do things. Like I know one thing about Content Catalog is if I just upload a new Revit family for 2024, it'll update all of the ones out there. My problem is sometimes I don't want it to update the ones that are out there. So if I'm editing one on Content Catalog for 24, as I'm just playing with an idea, I don't want it to update my 25 and 26 version, and it does. There might be a way to turn that off. I'm not sure, but turn it off on a specific family, it's kind of weird for me. And the thing with content catalog that I have problems with a lot of things is technically most of that stuff, there's no folder structure. So you're adding metadata and metadata and metadata. So you're just putting a whole bunch of properties to the object. I mean, technically you can do that on any family you want. If I just go to my Revit library, wow, what I thought was in my recents, it's not. But if you go to any Revit family or anything in Windows Explorer, you can always go to like something and go to the properties, and in the properties, you can see all of the data that's there, and you can start adding more data to it. Details, that's what I'm looking for. So you can add properties, you can remove properties, you can start
did they
doing things
see
like
that?
that to these to add metadata if you want to. Shoot, my screen was not.
Okay. I was
My
like, is it
screen was
just
paused.
me or?
So I'll right click on this and do that again. So you go to properties and you can start adding metadata inside of here. You can go into the, say it's view only. You can go into the custom and add custom properties, custom parameters. And then if you're doing that in Windows Explorer, you can do this. And that's what a lot of this stuff is doing. There's no folder structure. So with most databases nowadays, literally everything gets dumped into a single repository and they're relying on you to put metadata there. So for me, I haven't been totally sold on this stuff because I'm very OCD about the way I create my families, the way I name my families, the way my folder structures are set up. So for me, it's still easy in Windows Explorer to find the stuff. So I haven't totally got into the content catalog side of things. Um, Also, a lot of people don't even realize that you literally can see a preview image of it in Revit. So if I go look at a family, I can make sure I'm seeing the preview image in Windows Explorer. I can set that all up. I can still set all the metadata up in here and still do the search up here. So I'm old school. I'm very type A personality. I haven't gotten too much into things like that simply for storage. Now, don't get me wrong. There are tools in there, like I know a lot of them have, like I know Avail has it. I think Content Catalog has it, where it can go into files like a Revit project and start looking for things for you as well. So that becomes nice as well. I still have a problem with everything's just in one location, and when I need to start parsing through data, I'm forced to look through searches and things rather than go to a folder location. So I don't know. I know most younger people that I rarely search in the project browser. I know where I'm going. I know what the view type is. So I know it's kind of me being an old curmudgeon guy, getting inside of that stuff in there as well. So that's kind of the thing for me. But yes, you can get into it. It is one of the things that Desiree and I are going to start looking into. We're really saying, okay, we got to get into this. We got to start figuring this out for BD Mackey and get into it. Just haven't done it too far yet. And I know, like I said, I know Rick does it a lot. Rick really gets into it. I know he's done a couple of presentations for Autodesk on it, and he's sold on it and wants to use it. And he loves the tool. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I just, for me, as a one-man shop, personally, I have to keep track of my laptop, and for sharing of that content, I just do backups onto ACC once in a while and add people when they purchase my libraries. Have you guys used it, Melissa?
No, we're also lots of folders and not as much searching. We're old over here too, I guess.
Yeah, and David's saying, and yeah, I knew was one of the Unify people. It's like, oh man, we're now being forced, pretty much, not so- being forced. We pretty much are going to be forced soon, shortly, to go through and do it. An honest truth, my other fear is at what point in time is Autodesk going to be like, cool, now that's a new subscription you've got to pay for,
Hmm.
right? They're going to be like, oh, that's a new subscription you've got to pay for, and we see what's going on there. So I don't know. Just kind of my thought process is like, okay, yeah. So we got a lot of people who used Unify and now they're jumping into. And I thought it was funny when, well, you were there, Melissa. We went to Inside the Factory like 2 years ago when they first acquired it. They're like, yeah, we're not working on that. All the Unify users were like, how's that going to change? Like, yeah, we're not going to add that in. We're not. That's not in the foreseeable future. Not in the foreseeable future. So
That means above our pay grade, probably. Um,
cool. So what's our next one? Yeah, Beth
yeah,
says they're
well,
using Unify, but they're debating Avail. Avail is a very similar tool to Unify. There's a lot of them out there. Getting into a lot of that stuff and setting up. There's a lot of those out there. I know Avail, there's Unify, there's a couple other ones. I think something like that. There's a lot of different ones out there and what you're trying to get into. All I'm going to say is, regardless of which one it is, they all need maintenance. Somebody's got to go through and make sure they're adding that metadata. Somebody's got to
yeah.
make sure it's staying cleaned. You've got to deal with permissions and all of that type of thing. So, regardless of any of those, it is going to need somebody to manage it. I know in some of my larger firms, literally that's almost a full-time job. Like these firms who have like, 700 Revit users, they literally have someone taking care of the content management, not even
Mm,
creation, just where is it stored, what metadata do we need, etc. How are we mining data from projects? Is this project mining, value mining? All of those things start to happen. So yeah, big thing is plan on, regardless of which one you're using, there will be significant setup in getting it going. What that definition to you is a definition to you. To me, I mean, I know I tried Avail when it very first came out. I loved the program, but it was like, I just can't spend this much time setting it up. And I found that, I think it was about a year ago when I looked at Content Catalog, same thing. It's like, cool. I don't have the time to set this up and add all that metadata to make it work for working well. And like I said, most of those now you can have container files and pull your wall types out of a certain container file. A lot of them are doing things like that. So there's definite advantages to those that you can have over just using storing it on Windows Explorer.
Yeah, just yeah, there's so many, and we were my old firm. We used Avail, and I did spend quite a bit of time setting it up, so it was kind of cool. But yeah, definitely a lot of background work to make it seem more seamless for the users.
Yeah, and Rick saying you can
And
house drafting views and can grab drafting views.
mm,
I don't know. To me, I usually just open up one model that has all of the typical, air quote, typical details. And I grab
yeah,
and copy views as I want. The other thing for that too is it does drafting views, but I don't do drafting views. I link my Revit views in via a 3D file, so it doesn't work for the way I do linked details anyway. So they've all got these things, and like somebody said, "Hey, are you using Puros?" Again, all of these look great, but I do my details different than most people.
you do a lot of things different than most people, Brian.
This is true. Like start putting up spiders and webs in January. All right, what's our next question?
Well, David was asking if we know if anyone knows why the default thumbnail image has been backwards for years. And yes, you can set it, but why is the default so wrong?
Oh, it's even worse than that, David. When you look at a family, and I know I do mine different than most people, the whole view cube in the family is backwards. When you're on a floor plan and you're looking at a floor plan, this is the right side, this is the left side. The reason why
Mm,
I say that is because the is reference values on this side are the left. This one on the right side is the right. There are pre-built in rules for that. When you place a legend component in plan, this is the front side, right? So if we're looking at this, I have the glazing on the front side, but yet when I go to 3D view, I'm looking at what in Legends in Revit is the front side, but the view cube says backside. So in my mind, the back and the front words are incorrect on this. The left and the right are correct, but front and back are wrong. That's why the thumbnails are also backwards because the thumbnails and they match the thumbnails to the view cube. When the view cube came out, inverse that, they match the view cube to the thumbnails. It just comes out that way. And in my opinion, that's completely wrong because if you want to use it for legend component, the front in plan is the top of the screen. This is the front. This is the back. All of their view templates have the elevations where this is called front and this is called back. Or I'm sorry, this is the front and this is the back. So even the elevations are wrong according to the pre-built rules they have set up for is references on reference planes and legend components. So it's way worse than that, David.
so the question or the answer is we don't know why it's wrong, but we know it's very, very wrong.
Yeah. It's because you have programmers creating a program and not talking to the guy who's creating legend components, etc. That's partially why I use my own family templates because I have the front and the
Mm.
back renamed in the views. I mean, there's a lot of other things, but that was the first thing that started me doing it. Yeah, back text
Yeah,
here. And this
for
is
this.
so like for me, Trevor, my doors, it's called push, pull, hinge, and strike because there is no front and back on a door. What's the front of a door? Right? So a lot of my content I get into that. Like if it's a cabinet, I don't say front and I might not say front and back. I might call it like host side versus operable side, things like that. I don't get so much in the interior, exterior, things like that because again, everybody can get into arguments of what's the interior and exterior of a door. There's a push and a pull side. There's no argument there. You push the door on one side, you pull it on the other side. All right. So what are some other questions we got?
Let's see. Let's go back to one of Andrea's questions. For Revit 26, have you noticed that parameters are not sticking with edits? both instance and type parameters. I will make a change and even apply. When I look again, they have reverted to before the change.
I have not noticed that. So
Thanks.
Um, I will say in Revit, there are some times with like a type parameter where you might make a change and Revit doesn't necessarily recognize it or tags might not recognize it. Oftentimes it's because Revit's got to rethink about that element and you would think hitting edit type would make Revit rethink about the element, but oftentimes it doesn't. So sometimes it's like literally if you nudge a window and then you nudge that window back, it's made Revit rethink about it. So therefore it'll rethink about its tag and then it'll say, oh, that's changed. I should rethink about it on tags everywhere else. So I've not noticed the parameters not sticking. Usually for me, it's more of a, hey, I've got to get Revit to rethink to display it properly. But I've noticed that all over the place in Revit, and it's always been that well, not always. Since they've been making speed improvements in Revit where everything doesn't update all at once, it's been getting worse. Or getting, yeah, been creeping up. But Trevor says he's noticing it, so I have not.
Yeah, I haven't used 26 very much yet.
I know one of the things
Mostly
for me
just
that
learning.
I laugh on were, and I know it's in 25, I haven't noticed it, I haven't done enough in 26. If I load 4 or 5 families, my Revit locks up until I click a tab in the project browser, and then it will unlock Revit. The only way to get out of it is to click, like all my tools will be grayed out, everything, simply by loading families. And then I've got to switch on a tab in the project browser and switch back, and then it will work fine. So I have that issue in 25. I have not seen anybody else with that issue yet, so I have no idea what that is. It's probably the same reason why my Teams crashes when I change the screen size.
Yeah, it's everything. Let's see. Oh, we'll just round out the email questions. So, what have you found to be the best practices for general notes and structural notes? Tried plain text, either in a drafting view or directly on the sheet. Doesn't always line up nice and allows too much editing for newer modelers. Yeah. A family that has parameters to fill the project specific information provides a bit of consistency but needs to be managed. Or scheduled, where you can keep it nice and organized and aligned, but it's a pain to edit.
Um, First off, there was one thing that scared me is text on sheets. I think that's a huge no-no in my personal opinion. I never, ever, ever do anything in a sheet. In my mind, a sheet is merely a placeholder for a view. So I would never put text on a sheet. People are like, what if it's just a one-off sheet note? Inevitably, somebody's like, oh, can we add that to this sheet? Can we add it to this sheet? And then there's not going to be linked. So for me, even if it's just like general notes for a sheet, I would never put those in there. I will go create a legend, like even this one, general notes for partitions. If this is only ever resides on one sheet, great. I still create legends for my notes, and then those legends get put onto the sheet.
Are you paused again?
I probably am. God, why do I keep bumping pause? There must be like a shortcut on the keyboard that I keep jumping on it. Thank you for telling me. So yeah, on that scenario, so for me, always, 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 I never ever do anything on a sheet. When I go to a sheet, the sheet is merely 100% a placeholder for views, right? Even when we come down to architectural sheet, I'm never going to have any sort of thing on here. All legends going to be put inside of here or part of the title block or whatever that might be. I'm never going to go through and have that in there. Even to the fact that some people say, well, that's great, Brian, but what about like revisions on schedules? How do you do that? I have a project parameter called revisions for schedules. So if I go into my project parameters, there's going to be one here called revisions for schedules. I hate the fact that it just didn't go down just to the R's, right? And then I tell what I need that to be associated to. And whenever I do that, I then will just go put a value in there for, hey, this is ASI 12, whatever it is, but each one of those elements then has that associated to it. So like if you grab a door, you're going to see in the door, there is a parameter for revision for schedules somewhere. I don't know if this client keeps it. It's in here somewhere. I don't know where, but this would be have revisions for schedules, and then that, yeah, right
Oh, there
there.
it is.
So then technically, this door, even in 3D, would have it. So if the door has been revised, I can either type it right here as I'm revising the door, or if I type it in on the schedule, then I can technically even come back and do a filter to change the looks of it for me to start verifying what I've done. Right. So again, I never put anything on the sheet. Now, if you're talking, um, how are we want to do like just like key to notations type scenario. A lot of my clients actually use the Revit keynotes where they go through and start creating that keynote TXT file. And they're just kind of like, cool, 100 is floor plans, 200 is elevations, 300 is reflected ceiling plans, whatever. And then they just have note 100, 101, 102, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And therefore, then they can go create a keynote schedule and tick the box, itemize instances on our filter by sheet, excuse me. So if they then filter by sheet, they can put that same keynote schedule on every sheet, and it's just going to update once you assign a keynote to one of those values. So that's the kind of other scenario I can do. I also have a lot of people who come in. I actually need to go to Revit 25, which I probably don't have open. I'll just load it in here. I also have a thing that I do, and I'm not a huge fan of this. Insert load family. But I do have this type of scenario that I've done. Oops, I actually need to go here. For people who are like, man, I just need a dumb table schedule. And I'm kind of like, that's cool, but I don't really do dumb tables. We've all done the theory of you go into the title and you start typing everything in the title. My problem with that is like then you've got to get into all these crazy, well, how tall is that row, etc. Because Revit does really weird things. So for me, I have this one family called schedule line, right? And if I go into any view, and I usually do this in like a drafting view, but it doesn't matter. If I go to any sort of view, I can then actually put that component down, that symbol, it's a generic annotation symbol. Annotate. See my Revit? It's doing it in 26 too. I loaded a family. Everything gets grayed out until I click in the project browser and click back. Good, it still didn't fix it. Come on. Come on, Revit. Oh, this has got to be a my machine thing. I'll do like commands. I can do commands still. Oh, my ribbon's sweet. Usually I can see in Revit 25, I can just switch.
I'm still blaming Zoom.
No, because this happens to me when I'm not even using Zoom.
Oh, okay, fine. It's all you then.
Oh man. Cool. So I can't do any more Revit today. We'll just go and open up Revit 25. Um, oh,
Imagine if
beautiful.
you will.
Yeah, it's weird because I can still like do two key shortcuts for everything, but I can't like, yeah, I mean, everything still works. Yeah, it's like it wants me to select something, but it's not. I mean, I can select things. It's not it at all. It's just the ribbon locks up. And in 25, I can just switch tabs. And usually it doesn't happen when I load a single family. It usually happens to me when I load like three families in a row or three or four families at a single time. Oh, there we go. Minimize and maximize the ribbon. There we go. I'm back. Okay, so what I was going to show you is when you place a symbol, if you put a symbol in there, you can actually place multiple instances of this, whatever you want. We'll just do copy, multiple, sure. Don't really care. Since that's a generic annotation, and this is a way a lot of people will do keyed notations, you can actually do what's called a note block, right? So we can create a schedule that is a note block. And when you do that, you can be like, cool, I'm going to look for any generic annotation family. And in this case, it's the one called schedule lines or something like that. FASM. Am I missing it here? Annotation, no blocks. No, what did I say? Crap.
That one's not. You can't change the size of that dialogue in 26 yet, can you?
No, I know. Pisses me off.
Yeah.
That's why I got to pull the glass. I can't even zoom in or out. Why am I not seeing? Oh, because it's not this client. Yeah, it's at the bottom. So inside of there, I literally just have this as say column 1 through 10, and I can add those over there. You could grab other things you wanted to as well. And now I've got a schedule for this with all of those families. So a lot of times, if you just want some generic names or whatever, you could set this up too. Like you could say, hey, this is going to be 1, and this is going to be 2, and I wanted this to be a sub bullet point of A. You could start coming through here and setting things up like this to do a dumb table. And it's literally just click in the cells, change it, because this is just pulling out 10 values from that generic annotation. So if you are talking like keyed notations, you could do something very similar where you could say, hey, note one is going to be this, and just have it only display the one or two fields you want. Not a huge fan of this, but I do have clients like, no, 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 I just want dumb tables. And doing the whole thing in the header is on the title is pretty weird. So they just like, what if I need another one of those? You literally just go, I usually do it in a drafting view. You literally just go start creating additionals and you're adding additional lines. And it's literally just got 10 values to it. So that's the kind of solutions you might have in there, Andrea, to be looking at those. But again, never text on a sheet.
Andrea agrees with the no text on a sheet.
Yeah.
You have to walk around with your ruler and slap wrists, I think, or knuckles. I didn't
Oh,
go to Catholic school, so I don't
I didn't go to Catholic school.
know.
And so Rick's thing. So Rick, the revisions for schedule, it is literally just a project parameter. The project parameter is revisions for schedules. It is a text parameter. Um, then you just start assigning it to things you want. So if you're like, oh, gee, I want to add this to Windows, I want to add this to something else, you just grab that other category you want to associate it to, and then you go into your schedule and add that category. So if I come down here to like the door schedule, oops, that's Legends. If I come down here to the door schedule, where's the door schedule? You'll see the far column to the right is revisions. So then you just type in whatever you want it to say, right? You'll also notice that if it does have a revision, I have it color coding the field. So if it's filled out, highlight it so you can actually see something's happened to this so the contractors don't miss, hey, this was part of a revision at one point in time. So that's just all it is, just a text value. And then in my schedule, under the formatting for revisions for schedules, there is a conditional format that I just said, hey, cool. If it's not equal to being blank, color code the field. You could do it like a light red if you wanted to, whatever you're doing for your revisions. And if somebody added that to that door, you're going to show it's being read. So that's it.
Yeah, we have the revision column as well.
Yeah. I just call it revisions for schedules is not to confuse people when they're looking through parameters and it might just say revision or
Yeah, definitely more fun than chasing around stupid bubbles on sheets.
Yeah, and I have one client, they don't only tag like the revision over there, they also tag like the very first one in the column too. So under their formatting, they will also do the very first one, do a conditional format, because you can say, hey, I want to
Okay.
grab revision for schedules, and it's not equal to blank, do a same light reddish color. And now it bookends it with, hey, it's been revised, you can see. One client did it all the way across the board. So I had a conditional format every single column. But yeah, that's how I do it. Because I'm never going to try to put a revision cloud on a sheet, right? With the revisions up or the schedules on the sheet, a revision cloud around the sheet going around it. And then as the schedule updates and adds doors, now that revision cloud isn't updating. I'm just not going to play that game. That's way too much tracking to going on.
It was so much fun though. Yeah, no. Um, oh, well, some a follow-up on that then. How do you handle if you were to say delete a door? Do you keep it in the schedule and put it as a revision so there's
Hmm.
still a line in there to say that it was deleted?
I don't know, actually. It's a good question. Like move the door hosted to something off to the side. I guess that's what
Mm,
I would do. Grab the door, rehost it to something else. Like if I drew a wall over here, this would be my revision wall. And then I could come over here and grab the door and be like, oh, let me pick a new host so all the data's still there. And then I would put a new door back in its place that I could demo, but this wouldn't have all the data. I don't know. I haven't thought about that one. Sweet. Even picked up on my dimension with it. I didn't know that actually happened.
yay! Oh, there you go. Rick has a door family that's a small box. so that it can stay in the schedule. That'll work.
Yeah, until the problem is somebody doesn't know what small box is and they delete it.
Also fair.
All right, what we got next?
Um, let's see.
I
Oh,
think,
oh,
go ahead.
Chris was asking if anyone uses 3D connection devices, and have you figured out how to make the software not slow your computer down to a crawl?
I used 3D Connect devices a long time ago when I got one for free at some conference to try out. I just wasn't totally sold on it. I couldn't get my hand on having another mouse over here. I don't know. It just didn't work in
Yeah,
my brain. I loved it in Navisworks. I used the crap out of it in Navisworks to manipulate and fly through the model, but I just never got into it in Revit. And I never got into adding that software to do it. So I'm out on that one, Chris. I don't really use them. I don't know if anybody else has a 3D Connect that they like. Yeah, Ian's like, yeah, I like it in
um,
Revit and SketchUp and AutoCAD. Don't like it in Revit.
okay, I'm glad I'm not alone in that. I always wanted to like it, but it was like I'm good enough getting around with mouse and keyboard that
Yeah, when they
I
first came
could,
out, like I think it was at a conference, and like a year later, the 3D Connect guys gave it because they gave me the little small
mhm,
one, and I'm like, yeah, I
yeah,
just can't get into it. So then they gave me the big one, and I'm like, sorry guys, I just can't get into it. I like the buttons to have all the controls because I'm so old school. I used a digitizer that had the puck, and on the puck you had 16 buttons that you could customize to do anything you wanted. I loved it for that, being able to
yeah,
have buttons just do certain things. But again, I just have not been able to totally get into it, and I ended up giving that. So I was like, yeah, I'm not using it. You'll use it. Take it. I gave it to one of my clients.
yeah. I can see it being really helpful if you're a product designer. It's something kind of small, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. I do believe I remember in the beta something about they were doing more support for 3D navigation mice. I'm assuming that's what they meant by that, but I
yeah.
have no idea because I don't have one, so I haven't even looked at it.
I just called you old.
Hey, I started AutoCAD in the DOS-based days, so yes, I am old.
DOS. Ooh. Let's see. Oh, Trevor was asking if Autodesk is planning on revising stairs and says the last couple times he opened Revit, it's been asked to do a survey on options for stairs. I haven't seen
Um,
said survey, but they're always talking about changing stairs, and then we know how that goes.
I do know that they did put a feeler out, I don't know, 6 months ago, asking for input on stairs. I do think they are going to try to relook at them. I don't know when they put that survey out, that usually means they're debating if they should or should not look at them. So it doesn't mean they're going to be looking at them and potentially addressing them. I know that all the guys at Autodesk know I've been pushing hard to be on that stair list, to understand when you're getting into there doing those types of things. So hopefully if they do start digging into it more, I would know. I have no idea. Like I said, I just know they were starting to do that. As for your survey question, I don't remember where it is here, but the thing that came up like, hey, do you like Autodesk? What do you want to get into? Somewhere in here, there's a way to turn off. Do you want that stupid survey coming up? I don't remember where it is, but it's somewhere in your options. You can turn that off.
Mm. I'm just gonna assume Aaron turned that off like first thing, so
Aaron turned that
because
off for
I've
you
never
guys
seen
first thing in the
it.
INI. I just don't remember
I'm sure.
where it is. Uh, so it's in here somewhere. I'm not sure.
Probably nicely hidden because I don't want you to turn it off.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't see it, but it's in here somewhere.
Oh, Beth, we were talking about the
And if it's not in
um
here, you can change it via the INI. So feel free to change it via your INI.
no, Beth was asking what we're turning off. We were talking
The
about the
survey.
yeah.
when you open, or for me it always comes up when I'm closing it, I believe, not when I open it, but it's one of those. I know it can be changed in the INI. It might not be in the options. You might have to actually edit your INI to turn it off, but yeah, it's capable to put that in there. I forget who asked that question. Wasn't that Trevor? Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, I'll answer Michael's question because this is something that I've been asking for 20 years from Autodesk. Michael's question was, is it possible to make a family parameter for a profile in a line-based family? Short answer, no. I remember when I think it was the year you and I went, Melissa, we were at the inside the factory and one of the programmers was sitting there and we said, "Hey, we would love to get that." He's like, "That should be real easy." And then he came back like 2 days later. He's like, "Yeah, that's not easy." So no, unfortunately, you can't be in. I can just open up a family. You can't go into a family that's using like a sweep that's using a profile and say, cool, I would love to be able to parameterize this. So
Mhm.
trim, this one will be fine. Yeah, I would love, love, love to be able to come into this profile and associate a parameter to what profile you're using. Um, I partially think the reason that it's difficult is when you're looking at the profile family, you have different types of profiles. And I think the reason it probably would be different is they would be screwed if you said, cool, I want to use a fascia when I'm in a slab edge or something like that. So I think this is part of the reason why it would be difficult. But yes, that has been a request for me forever, is to be able to be in the family and just have a profile here. Because if I could do that, man, I would have, so many fewer families on a lot of things I do. It's like, oh my God, I could make my countertops different. I could do it a whole bunch of different ways. Yeah, or even just, well, yeah, I would assume if you did it here, it would be a drop down list for which ones you could choose from. But yeah, so short answer, Michael, no. There's probably a wish list item out there that I signed up to, Revit Ideas out there that I signed up to like 10 years ago. But yeah, I've been requesting for that for years. Probably over 2 decades I've been requesting for that. Again, I'm old. We haven't got that through yet.
Add.
So what
Oh,
else
here we
we
go.
got?
Rebuilding Revit. Ah, see, Rick's in 24. I'm also in 24, Rick, and trying to open a model right now with Zoom open. It says it's open, but nothing in the canvas and the ribbon is grayed out. Rick also thinks it's Zoom.
I know my issue is not a Zoom issue because it just happens to me when I'm by myself. Not Teams, like nothing else even opens sometimes. Like, so yeah, I definitely know my issue or the whole ribbon grayed out. That's not it. I've been on Windows 11 since it came out, so I don't think it's a Windows 11. It's something in Revit 25. An honest truth for me, it was when I got the new computer. I did not have that problem in my old computer, and I haven't seen anybody else have the whole ribbon grayed out. You can can't even click the tabs issue. So I'm the only one I've seen doing that, so I'm pretty sure it's coming to mine.
It's gonna be some like super weird little setting something or some update.
Well, as I'm getting old, I also have my text size changed. So sometimes I wonder if like changing the text size has screwed something up.
Mm.
Like I do notice like half the time, like you can see like I lose my ribbon buttons, I think because my text size is too big. So like my ribbon buttons will hide behind the panels. So I think part of it could be things like that. I just, don't want to wear glasses all day long. So I haven't played with that yet. Well,
Uh-huh.
I have my old person glasses on, Jason. I put them on like 4 times when I've been doing this. Come on, I got my old man glasses.
I'm gonna get you oh, you should 3D print yourself a chain.
The chain 3D print myself a glasses chain.
Can be little R's or something.
All right, which one we doing next?
Let's see. They all seem like they could go really long. Um, Uh, can you speak a bit on syntax for formulas?
Sure. Literally just closed that project. I should have left it open. Whatever, I can open up a family.
Oh,
It's no big deal. I'll just open up a family. Really doesn't, that'll be easy. So when you start talking about formulas, it's very similar to what you would be doing as a formula in Excel for the syntax. What's stupid about Revit is if you're trying to get into a formula and that formula is going to be using numbers, Excel doesn't care if it's a number or a length or a degree or currency or whatever. Revit does. So most of the formulas, when you start getting inside of there, actually, I'll go grab a family. Most of the formulas you start getting inside of there are going to be fairly simplistic formulas that you're going to be doing. Trying to think of which one I have that would be crazy amount of formulas. I don't know. Let's go to detail component for now. I'll go to my crazy rebar family. Da-da-da-da-da, concrete, reinforcement, side. So a lot of the simplistic formulas that you can get into when you're coming down here, you can see I've got a lot of these, are simply going to be like if you've got a length value, so we've got a length here, and if you wanted to create a new parameter, I'm just going to call this one my test length. What you can do is for that formula, you can just say, hey, it's going to be the length divided by or multiplied by something, right? I could say it's times two divided by two, and it's always going to be half of that. So that's one of the simplistic formulas you're going to get into. Most of the formulas, when you start looking at like even in this family, it's just literally simple formulas. Let's take the length and let's subtract these three values together. Let's take the bend and let's add the diameter to it. So a lot of the formulas you start seeing inside of here are getting into that. It's when you start getting into more of the conditional statements then. And with a conditional statement, when you start looking at any conditional statement, Excel, Revit, whatever, you're going to say it's if, and then the statement is the first thing before the comment. So the little comma here is like, okay, the statement is then start equals zero. So that's my statement. If it's true, what are you going to do? So in front of the next comma is the true value. If it's a false value, what are you going to do here? Right? So there's the statement, there's the result if it's true, there's the result if it's false. Thank you, Beth. I was just going to say there's a lot of great
yes.
things on the Revit forum for getting into those on setting some of these up, but it really starts getting into it as well. Where a lot of people struggle, and it's kind of weird, is there's no such thing as a conditional statement for yes values. For like yes values, there's no like if this is true, do this. If it's false, do that. Because a yes no value is just true or false. So like here, you can just say it's not that. So the bend angle can't equal zero. If the bend angle equals zero, turn me off. If it's not zero, turn me on. Right? So it's just literally a yes no values become a little bit weird because it's just literally what is your statement? And if it's true, I'll turn it on. If it's false, I'll turn it off. That's literally all it needs to be. So like even here, if you're just like, hey, I wanted it to equal the bend angle, you would just literally say, cool, not even use the word not. It just equals the bend angle. So that one gets a lot of people confused because they're kind of like, okay, yes, no values are a little bit in there. But when you really start getting into some of the stuff, you've got to start understanding it. And you don't even always have to use those just within like a family environment. It's like if I were to come in here and I were to draw something in the project, and I'm like, man, I really wanted this angle to be a 412 pitch. If I go put an angular dimension on here, you can do that within families, right? Within inputs. So if I'm like, cool, I wanted that to equal the arctangent of the rise over the run, right? So this is also a statement, but I'm just doing it where I'm entering a value. So I can say the A10 of the rise over the run, and that's an 18.43 whatever degree angle, right? I can also come up here and be like, that's cool. What about the length of this? If I know I wanted this to be 92 CMU courses, I could say equals 92 times, 16 inches, and that's 122 foot 8. So you can do those statements not only in families or formula or parameters or whatever, you can always start doing things like this as well. And you can even be like, oh, but I needed to be two-thirds of that, right? Or whatever. As long as you start with equals, I could be like, I have 192 brick courses times 16 inches, but I need to put that in the parentheses because I need to do that first, right? And then I want to multiply that times 0.3. Whatever you want to do, you can start doing that as well. So start looking at that, start playing with that. And then Caitlin actually asked, does uppercase and lowercase matter in formulas? It's weird. Desiree and I got an argument the other day. I'm like, well, you're not, that's not going to work. It's not case sensitive. It's case sensitive. And she typed something in where she used all lowercase and the value was uppercase and it worked. And I was like dumbfounded. I'm like, how the hell is that working? I forget what we were doing, but yes, for the most part in Revit, things are case and space sensitive. So if you have two spaces as opposed to one, Revit's looking for two spaces, not one, and that is another big thing to be looking at too. So thank you for posting those links, Beth.
Yeah, I always end up finding that thread on Revit forum every time when I have to dig back in.
And you, like I said, you can get into the text values. You can start getting into things like that, or the trig values, etc., if you really wanted to. And I'm going to post those links on the screen. So if anybody wants to try to see them or who's watching the recording, I'll try to remember to post them in the YouTube link as well, but I'm probably going to forget, let's be honest.
Okay. Well, so Rick had a couple more, but I think they'd be long. So do we want to table those for next month?
Yeah, the adaptive components, Rick, remind me when we start next month, and we'll start off with a little adaptive component 101. I do know I've done it several times in the recordings. So if you do go out to the YouTube channel, I'll post up the YouTube channel right now. If you do go to the YouTube channel, that's not Control C. It should be up there too. We've talked about adaptive components several times in the past. Let me pull that down too. It's just YouTube, Google the Revit Geek. And then as for his other question, we can probably cover that one, and then even though we're over by 3, I can cover that in a couple
All
minutes.
right. So Rick is asking for tips on putting together a presentation or um, going for an AU class, basically.
And in years past, I would have had a lot of tips for you. I think people who go to AU know what I'm talking about. In
Your
years
best
past,
tip
I
is to
always
get
just would,
hired at AU and or
yeah.
hired at Autodesk at this point, or be a
No,
reseller.
I love AU. I'm just tired of the fact that they no longer really get into hands-on training. It's more about what have you done with our software? Please present that. So if you really want to be presenting it at AU, I would get into the, hey, how have you used their tools and what ways, rather than this is how to use the tools. I mean, I do say
Yeah.
this, but last year I did do the Revit Fundamentals Lab, just on Revit Family Fundamentals Lab. So I did create family content and they accepted that one. But a lot of it now, all the other ones I've been doing in years past, I've only been accepted if I have said, cool, here's how I use Revit to create this signature project that's very marketable, etc. Because they are using it more and more for marketing than they have in the past. So that
Mhm.
would be the big thing for me, Rick. If you're really looking at, last year they let you submit 3. So I submitted one that was like that. I submitted Revit Fundamentals, and I don't remember what the third one I did was. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like, put it together and look at it. But the big thing now is literally they're all getting into how are you marketing. And if you really want to get accepted, probably do something on AI and how you're using AI with Revit, and they would love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would kind of be the big thing. And then I did see some things pop up in the chat. Somebody said they wish there was like AE or AI for filling out formulas. So theoretically, I think in Revit 27, it's in beta right now. They are going to start adding might even be able to get it for 26 if you go download it. They are trying to add an AI assistant for Revit. So if that is the case, I have not tried it yet. I know what they came in on some of the stuff in the past. It was it's like, hey, show me all the doors that are in rated walls, and it would be like start highlighting things, changing colors, things like that. So they are trying to get some of the AI features in there where you can start getting into it. I would think syntax would be one of the simple things in a formula to say, help me create a formula that does X. I have no idea, but I think that would be a big thing as well when you get into there when they start getting into it. And then the other thing I always want to bring out too is we are now at the beginning of February, so that means in 2 months we will have Revit 27. So just keep thinking about that. And part of the reason why I bring that up is theoretically, when Revit 27 comes out, your licensing agreement says you can do current plus three, which means 23 will no longer technically be allowed to be licensed and operated, and you definitely won't be able to download it. So I always just like to throw that out there for people who are still on projects in 23. Really got to start thinking about getting into thinking about, hey, we need to be upgrading these projects. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah, or getting your express written permission from Autodesk so they don't come back and audit you.
Yeah. And that is the other thing. I know a lot of you guys aren't the prime on projects. If your architect or whoever's prime on the project, no, no, we're not going to upgrade this project. I always tell people, well, great, you need to go get express written consent from
Hmm.
Autodesk for all users on this project to be able to use it. Because you will have to go through to Autodesk, and it's not a huge deal, but it is time you've got to do to get your firm um, permission to use older versions. They will
And
usually say yes. It's just a
yeah,
process you've got to go through.
and it's much less of a pain in the butt than going through an audit.
Yes.
Can confirm. So
Yeah. So like for me and my laptop, I don't even have Revit 22 installed. It's like, nope,
yeah,
it's
no.
done. We're out of it. I uninstall Revit 22, and if I have clients like, when I needed 22, I'm like, great, I can't help you. We've got to upgrade your
Yeah.
project to 23, or you have to do it on your machine and I'll have to walk you through it. So with that said, I just giving everybody a heads up, 2 months-ish. I know the last couple of years they've released it on April 1st, so literally less than 2 months. We should have Revit 27, which means 23 won't be working. Or it will still work. Let me rephrase that. It will be illegal. You will be breaking your license agreement. Cool. That's it. To 23 ever work. Oh, that was funny though.
Yeah, if I had to get back in 23, I would probably cry right now. I mean, 24 is bad enough.
No, technically you'll still be able to open the project, but if Autodesk decides to audit you and they see you're using Revit, currently, if you're using Revit 22 and you get an audit from Autodesk, they can fine you for that. And the fine is usually a cost of a new license. Even though you own the license, you might
Hmm.
have 5 employees using it. And if you own five employees are using it and you have 5 licenses, they will still charge you for 5 new licenses, and you'll have to buy 5 new licenses at list price, not discounted price. So that's just why I always tell everybody, yeah, if you're on older versions of Revit, either get a hold of Autodesk and get express written consent to use that, or tell the project team they need to upgrade the project.
Ooh, yeah, tell the project manager that they're going to need to add that to their budget. If you want to stay in this old version, you're going to need to add
Yeah, I have
the
one client,
cost
they're
of
like,
when we
cool.
get audited.
Yep. I have one client that are like, yeah, well, we are no longer going to be using that. So either you upgrade this project or you get Autodesk to give express written consent for the entire project. Because, that could be 40 people trying to call Autodesk for the one project, 40 different firms. Hey, we're using Revit 24.
Yeah,
So yeah. I also try not to go down the way I use it as an excuse to upgrade to the latest version. We should just upgrade to 26, guys. Come on.
yeah.
All right, we are 10 minutes past the hour, so we're a little bit late. Thanks everyone for staying on who did, and hopefully we will see you next month. And I will try to remember Rick to start off with adaptive components at the beginning. Oh, Chris said he thought it was current plus five. Chris, unless you work for a large firm, I know for me my license agreement is
Yeah,
current
it's
plus three.
plus three.
A few years ago, it used to be current plus four, but I know now, and for a lot of larger firms, they're even trying to get away with single login licenses and just doing tokens. So it will not surprise me if in the future they just don't charge us all tokens, but we'll see. X amount of tokens per day. But yeah, it's definitely plus three, Chris. I would go read, see what's going on. All right, thanks everyone. See you all next month.
Bye.